Wonderful. This shows us streaming on our platform. So I will double check and wait a couple minutes before I have us get started with our program. So, Rich, while I'm waiting to see the little notification button, I have to say this because I find it very funny. But I was trying to share you out and tag you, and Facebook thinks that Shelly's way cooler and was giving me her tag so I can so I can include her instead of you on this. So,
She is way cooler. So
right, that's funny. Well, I think the notification should appear soon. I don't quite see it, but I do see a couple of people that are on here. Jeffrey and John, thank you for joining us onto the broadcast. We'll get started with some of the basic housekeeping, and as more people come on here, then it'll be time for our counselor, of course, to provide his remarks for today's conversation. But I want to welcome you all back to our broadcast streamed here on Facebook and YouTube. If you are a first-time viewer, then I encourage you to be sure that you are liking our Facebook page and subscribe to notifications, or if you're viewing it on YouTube, that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Doing so allows you to get that information as we go live, or if we've closed out a video, it gives you that nice little push notification on your phone or whatever other device you may be using. Now, if you are coming back to us, then you already know the drill. I like to ask, and it's more of pressure, right? Like I like to pressure you virtually to hit the share button on this video so others in your network can see that we're live, can also join us on this stream, whether it's now or long after we're live. We still want them to be updated on all the information and great comments that we have today. Now, the number one way that we like to engage with you outside of talking back and forth to one another is through the comment section here on Facebook or YouTube. If you're viewing this on any device, you have the ability to comment onto the video. Of course, if you comment anything racy or super aggressive, it probably won't be pulled up. But if it's anything pleasant or comments relevant to our conversation topics we may not be highlighting that you desperately want to hear about or just are really interested in, type them into the comment section. Your comments are always welcome. The questions are always welcome. And any reactions, those emojis that you can give us, hearts, angry faces, etc., make us not only feel great, but it also allows us to see who's tuned in with us so we can give you the proper shout out you deserve for being on here with us. So we already have a couple of people that have kicked things off with comments. Dave is a great example of someone who's viewing this on YouTube. The little red button shows that he is watching this on YouTube, but he's giving us a quick good morning message to Councilor Seymour and myself. We also have our ambassador chairman, Emilio Valdez, on here, also sharing a nice good morning pleasantry or rare. So thank you so much to both of you for being on here. If you're watching this later on and we're no longer live, you can still ask us questions or provide comments. We do ask that you give us a hashtag replay in the section of the comment section, wherever it is that you're posting responses or posting questions. That's a quick way for us to pull those later on, long after we're no longer live. videos are always available to you in the video section here on Facebook and YouTube. And I think that's my long-winded opening into today's broadcast, which is city updates, all things what's going on in City Hall from our different councilors and our mayor's perspective. We do a rotation every week, so you get a fresh, different perspective, and you also are able to hear information from their lens and ask them questions that they might be passionate about as well. With that, I want to turn this over to you, Councilor Seymour, to get us kicked off and started today. I'm going to do my best in capturing your comments in the section for folks.
All right, here we go. You ready? No, thanks for having me on. Love our chamber partners, and near and dear to my heart, as you all know too. So it's a very busy time in the city right now. I'm not sure if the mayor was able to give you an update last week. She was on Tuesday, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm,
so
she was.
I got to pick you up on the meeting the night before. So looking ahead, tonight is a study session. And so we have, for a study session, a rather large agenda. We've got updates on our sewer and tap fees, which is, that's the cost that development pays to link into our fully developed water and sewer lines. And so every year we have an annual review of the cost basis on that. It's based on a national average cost updates for that. And for instance, it's based on this. These are commercial, so it's based on the size, number of units. But you know, a medium-sized apartment complex, their tap fee would be around $1 million. And so people ask, does development pay the cost of coming into our water system? And this is how this is captured up front. And so we'll be discussing that and reviewing that, and that'll come for a vote in a couple of weeks. And then update and presentation from the city manager on where our $14 million of ARPA funds went and how they're being used. We have no timeline on that. We use that money to backfill some losses in income. And so the city manager will give an update, and this is all online as well too. If you want to pull up the full report on where that money went, we put almost half of that into our water and sewer utility to help that. And then a big chunk into streets, curbs, and gutters as well, those infrastructure issues that are most important to our residents. So that's the first part of tonight. And then we have four items that are, this is a newer concept. If you haven't been every night glued to your YouTube on City Council, we're doing what's known as concept plan reviews. And so this is a way for a project to be brought to City Council very early in the stage. Basically, they've just put in an application and said, here's what we'd like to do. And we got this idea from Broomfield that's been working very well for them. They come to council, staff says, here's what they're looking at, and then the applicant says, here's our base idea. I mean, it's very raw, and council gets to give them feedback. And then it's very much a two-way conversation. And what the hope of this is so that these applications, hundreds of thousands of dollars are not spent to then get the planning commission and get to council, and we say, no, that just doesn't fly, or we would have rather seen this, we would have been happier with this. This is a non-binding conversation because some of these won't come back until another council sees it. But it's an idea to save time and money for everybody. If something's not going to fly, it saves our staff money too, and they can work on something that another applicant is bringing forward on that. So tonight we have 4 concept plan reviews, Countryside Cottages that are a parcel at Sims and Countryside Drive that's been there since we moved to the city. Concept plan for a U-Haul moving and storage up off 136 in Huron in the commercial area. And then a concept plan review for Foster Farms, which is also up at that 36 area. That is employment flex, R&D buildings, a concept for that area south of St. Anthony's, a couple parcels, to see what they're looking at to bring to that area. And then concept plan for the uplands filing for the southwest corner of 88th Avenue and Federal Boulevard. So see what that section of it. So these are all coming to us early on, and we'll see what happens tonight. And then we have an executive session. We're continuing this time of year per our charter. We review our 3 employees of council, the city manager, the city attorney, and the municipal court judge. We give feedback, personnel reviews, and salary reviews too. So it takes several weeks to go through that. And we'll be wrapping up that portion tonight. And part of it has to come through our charter for the judge, that we have to vote on that in 2 parts. So we'll continue our job on the council of working with our 3 employees, the key people that run the entire city. So especially the city manager and the city attorney's office that take care of all the operations in our city. So that's a quick wrap up on what's going on the business of council.
Yes, and if I can jump in real quick, Councilor Seymour, because we have a few other people, Henry and Ramon, thank you for joining us onto the segment with Councilor Seymour, providing us updates on what's coming up this evening, a study session. What I have done as the councilor was making his remarks was try and capture his comments in the comment section. We've also included for you a couple of links. The first link is directly to the agendas page, where you can see kind of the 6-month agenda that's out, past agendas that have transpired for council and for study session. And then the second link that's provided is the direct link to the study session items that Councilor Seymour had referenced. So if you're interested in seeing more along the lines of the pre-development process, the items that they'll be discussing this evening, that's the link directly to it. And of course, this session is streamed and available for people to be able to engage on there as well. If you've got comments, please be sure to include them along the way. Back to you, Councilor Seymour.
Well, thank you very much. A couple items that this last week, and we continue to do, our voters through our parks, open space, and trails tax this last election said, yes, we want to continue this, and yes, we want to allow you to bond for $15 million to get our aging parks infrastructure up to date. So we've been having a series of meetings over this last year. Some of these parks are substantial in size and serve a great number of people. Squires Park is an example on Lowell Boulevard. And so that concept, we had meetings on that. And so as we work through the city on the parks, and also it's not just aging, it's a matter of updating them for current uses. What are people using parks for now, especially during COVID? Our residents really got out there. And so how can we, and they continue to enjoy the trails and open space and parks. So this last week there was at Orchard Park, there was a great turnout for the community. And then this week on Thursday, for the people in the Oakhurst Park neighborhood, we have the same thing. We have design people with different playground options, age-based options, and whoops, I got ahead of myself on my calendar. That's next Thursday, the 12th at 3 p.m. from 3 until 6. We had to start a little early because it's starting to get dark, but at Oakhurst Park, we've have hot dogs and chips and other healthy stuff that's going on there. So you can stop by and feed the family and let the kids look at the playground drawings and make comments on that. So that's Thursday the 12th. But we're working through these. Parks, Recs, Library, and Open Space staff has done a great job, and the concept people that are bringing in different opportunities. Not every park gets pickleball, and not every park wants pickleball. So we're managing that. What do the neighbors want to have? And also another community outreach. We're going to have our third in a series of community outreach with the Sheridan Green neighborhood. Our ongoing discussion of what the neighborhoods around Sheridan Green Elementary School that just came into the city's possession. If you haven't been keeping track of that, county schools closed 16 schools throughout the county. Westminster was impacted on that, on several schools. But the Sheridan Green had a reverted clause in that if that property ever stopped being a school, it came back to the city. So we've already had 2 community input meetings. Staff presented last week in the after meeting some thoughts and some initial costs on what it would take to bring that building up to speed, and then some initial cost on that. So now that we've got some more defined issues, we're going to go back out to the Sheridan Green community and have that meeting. So many meetings on here. Let me find that, and I'll look at that, and I'll update Juliet. She can put that in there too. So really specifically around the Sheridan Green neighborhoods that are most impacted by that too. So and if really in council's mind, if it takes another meeting, we'll have another one too. There is no rush. Of course, there's the cost of making sure the building's secure, the lawn, the grounds are taken care of, and the building doesn't become an eyesore either. We want to take care of it from that standpoint. But yeah, so those are some of the things that we've got coming up from a community outreach standpoint as well.
And those are quite a bit of items. When we talk about Sheridan Greens, this has been a phase, and you shared this is the 3rd phase. So there have been a couple reiterations of this for the community surrounding this space, what their interest might be or the appetite for a possible use for the site. Are we seeing a good amount of those residents coming out to those meetings? Have they been engaged in the last couple that we're really getting a fruitful response on these, or has it been just a select few? And I know that's probably hard for you I can't imagine that you're keeping tabs of exactly how many people, but if you were able to make it, or in the report that the staff has provided back to Councilor, was that also factored into some of the commentary that was provided?
Both meetings. So the first meeting where it was just an open, what would you like to see, and what would you, or what don't you want? That was heavily attended, and that was a drop-in. So we had,
right.
Yeah, and it filled up the walls. So there was poster board, and you could vote, and someone would write, and it filled up the entire wall of one side of the gym there. Then the second meeting, where there was some, narrowed down a little bit, that was a defined time of the meeting. Sit down in the auditorium. I'm very glad that we didn't have an inspection at that time, because it was an absolute full house. And so I forget the numbers wise, close to 200 people.
Wow.
And it was standing room only, people standing outside the door listening in. And this was a very engaged group of residents asking questions. It was, here's some thoughts that we have. We haven't gotten past this. We haven't put a dollar figure on this, but these are the results of what we had. Also, we have an open page on the website, westminsterco.gov/Sheridan Green, and we were taking responses during that time there too. So now that we have dollar amounts and some more ideas, now we can go out and I think all of council is in somewhat agreement, is that no rush. Let's see where we want to go with this. Let's see what meets the community. And then also, we have to balance the dollars on this, because we're not talking $500,000 to update this. We're talking millions to update this as the new owner, how we would have to make it safe, dry, accessible from an ADA standpoint as well too. So,
as you were updating us with those details around that question, I did find the specific link that you rattled off to us around Sheridan Green. That's included in the chat for folks. That link has past meetings, it has the process of these concepts, but it also has the details and the date for the upcoming next community meeting that Councilor Seymour was referencing. So if you are in or around that area, this is relevant to you, you'll want to come out to it, please save that date. Now, Councilor Seymour, some of the items we were talking about earlier, you mentioned 4 concepts that were up for review. These concepts are up for review because they're pre-development projects that Councilor is opening up as an opportunity for ahead of time, before developers or business owners or others want to pursue a project, getting that feedback accurately to save time and money, both for them and for the city as well. Now, along those lines, we did have a question come through from Dave during that part of the conversation, and I didn't want to skip over it. So I wanted to bring us back to that part of the conversation and then pull up the question that came forward from Dave. And I'll go ahead and read this question to you and see what feedback we want to answer to him or other viewers that might share that same sentiment. Now, he's asking if residents have the ability to comment on the concepts provided during the concept review this evening. Like, is there a mechanism for them to comment on these? Has that been considered in the past? I know that when we brought this up earlier in today's broadcast, you mentioned that this was mirroring a nearby community. So I'd imagine if this is something that was already incorporated, then we might see this come through.
There is, my understanding is not right now, there's not a way for the public to comment yet, because there's barely just a one-page application that's been submitted on this too. So there's not been sign-offs by fire department or, building. They give us whether it's zoned correctly. And so this is very, very raw. And I can ask on that part. It may be an issue where all these, well, especially the 2 residential reviews, have to go to then community meetings. And that could be a year from now. That's how early these are in the planning process. But I would say comments are always welcome. You can go to any page on our website, westminsterco.gov, and at the bottom of every single page is contact council, and you can send it out to all of us, or one of us, or I'd say always send it to all of us, because then we're going to forward it anyway. So we like to keep each other up to date on what the pulse of the community is. So too. So it is so early, it's so raw, but if you have a thought now, send it in.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dave, for that comment that you shared and that question regarding comments on the concept review plan. I do see Vince on here. Thank you for joining us, Vince, onto the broadcast. We've got Councilor Seymour giving us updates on what's coming up on study session this evening. He's also highlighted the upcoming Sheridan Greens discussion, what that process entailed. And he even touched base briefly on the executive session that will take place after the study session items for today and what that may present. When we talk about outreach in the community, Councilor Seymour, there has been, I feel like, an increased appetite for this from our councilors and mayor over the last couple of years. Just greater involvement in different events that are taking place, having tables even at community events that it makes sense to be able to interface with counselors. What's on the radar, if I were to ask you, what's coming up over the next several weeks that you want people to be aware of, or maybe just to remind them that this is an opportunity for them to come forward and introduce themselves, see what questions that they might have, or just get to know you all as counselors?
This is a conscious effort that council, especially over the last couple of years, came in and said, we need a consistent outreach program that's looks ahead and has different type of contacts with our residents throughout the entire city, and with no agendas. Yes, the Sheridan Green is a specific one, but it's just an additional part. Yes, the park discussions are an opportunity for council outreach based on that, but we're trying to have at least once a quarter, we sit down in different parts of town and we introduce ourselves, and then here come the questions. And you get the response from all or some of the counselors, and you get to see what each one of us feel, because we don't all think the same. And so, but also more importantly at those two, we have staff there that is taking notes. We use the recording of those because we attempt to live stream all of them depending on the location. If not, we can at least video them, and they're on YouTube channel later, the city's YouTube channel. But we then post all the question or all the answers to the questions that we get, and we're either unable to ask or answer, or that we didn't get time to discuss. And so those are all on there. And the Sheridan Green meeting, because I hadn't clicked my accept yet, is Tuesday, October 10th from 6 to 7:30 at Sheridan Green Elementary School. So residents of that neighborhood, that we're reaching out to them as well, getting them, we've been sending out postcards and notifying them that way too. So, but yeah, you'll see that. We have right now, our plan is booked through January of next year. You will have new council members at that time, at least one, and so possibly more. Election is November 7th, and I know the chamber has got their forum coming up, and so that's an opportunity for the community to bring that up in this last week. As far as resident outreach and elections, ballots come out the week of October 16th. The Heart of Westminster and the Observatory Hill HOA just had their forum at the Grange this last Saturday. You can go back and view that on their website under recent events, theheartofwestminster.org. And so that's available for you. Westminster Public Schools is having a forum this Wednesday, the 4th, at the Grange, 6 p.m. That will also be live streamed and then saved. And then, of course, the Chamber has interviews with us shortly. We get a lot of interviews this time of year. And the 19th, I believe, is the Chamber Forum at City Hall. So a lot of opportunities to pick people's brains, hear what they have to say. I encourage people, do your research. Yeah. Go watch, listen, read. A lot of venues on that. The city just mailed out or is mailing out the every 2-year election update with all the candidates with questions in there. And then plus Westminster Window has it coming out, and then the Chamber will push there. So a lot of opportunity to share that with your neighbors, to get educated about what's happening in our city and potential direction changes as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that plug-in, Councilor Seymour. I know a lot of people are always interested to know what groups are putting some of these things on between the Chamber and some of our partners and other organizations that are down south. These are opportunities for you to interface with candidates seeking office. And exactly as Councilor Seymour shared, you know, they're snapshots. These are just quick snapshots, briefs about these people, but do your own research as well. Go out there, see their campaign pages, get to know these candidates that are seeking office, seeking to represent you, and understand, you know, what experience they have, what expertise they bring in, and then what they're hoping to achieve. Those are always great starting points if you don't know where to start on, you know, why should I vote for someone in particular, or what do I need to look for? But, you know, I always go based off of not only values that are shared for myself, but the track record of what someone has done and positively impacted our community in that respect. So we've got a couple of our own programs that are out there. Those interviews on the 12th of October will be virtual and available to you. The 19th is going to be an in-person session that's also recorded and live streamed as well at City Hall on the 19th of October. And then stay tuned to the week after is going to be for all of our school districts. Those are going to be virtual, and this is by demand. We were really leaning on our partners that are hosting these forums this year, but we've had a number of people that have asked us to host these. So we're going to be bringing those back to you toward the latter part of October. It's still great timing because you'll have received your blue book and the ballots and everything just right beforehand. So you'll be able to have that in your hand as you're watching in real time some of these discussions. So we are right up to the 30-minute mark. Councilor Seymour, we've talked about study session, we've talked about executive session, we've even discussed Sheridan Green, answered a couple of questions, including details about candidate forums that were out there. What, if anything else, did we want to get out there to folks, or do we want to go ahead and give them the last minute of their morning?
I think I've talked enough, so we'll give them some time back. But well, yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate you having us on. It's a great way to have council outreach, and we support the chamber. I support the chamber directly, and I want to take some personal privilege here to thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You have changed our chamber. It was the best hire I've ever made. For those of you who haven't heard, everybody on this channel knows that Juliet has taken an incredible opportunity for the greater Topeka area, and we will miss her. We know we're not losing her, and she will always be a friend as well.
Absolutely. Yes. My heart's always going to be here. I'll be back frequently to where you guys probably try and kick me out. But it'll be another friend in the industry. And I'm just so excited to continue to see the growth here in the Westminster markets and to take on such a superb market out there in Topeka, Kansas. So for the time being, you all are stuck with me until around the election time and even afterward. But please feel free to continue to engage and comment with us on these broadcasts. Your feedback is what drives our discussions, and it's always a great way for our counselors to see not only who is engaged, but to hear about those important topics because they truly want to represent you at that dais. So thank you for squeezing right in. Past Chairman Brian Head giving a quick good morning message to Councilor Seymour and myself. You can always watch these videos as a replay. I always tell you all, ignore the Netflix, the Prime, all those subscriptions. This is free for you in the video section. Just pop that popcorn and get ready to get engaged on the broadcast that we have Mondays and Wednesdays weekly. And then, of course, one time a month, we've got our Jeffco update with County Commissioner Kraft Tharp. That was last Friday. If you did not get a chance to watch that, I encourage you to do so. Talked about a number of items, including the Sims Road closure. So trying to emphasize that to people because it's a major thoroughfare and it's going to cause issues if you don't have a heads up about it. With that, I will give you all the rest of your morning. It is Monday. I wish you a great rest of your day. And thank you, Councilor Seymour, for being on here. I know you all are constantly being buzzed, pinged, and pulled in different directions. And this just shows your commitment to the audience, to the business community, and to the community at large. So have a great rest of your morning.
Take care.
Thank you.